She thought he was just another stranger in need of help. But what if he wasn't? What if the man she helped was hiding a secret that could change her life forever? An act of kindness, one chance meeting, and one life-changing secret. What happens when trust is tested and the truth is finally revealed? The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of freshly cut grass and blooming flowers. Lily Harper, a 29-year-old elementary school teacher, pulled her scarf tighter around her neck as she strolled through the park. It was her one day off after a grueling week of teaching and grading papers, and she had promised herself a quiet morning to clear her mind. Life had been anything but easy for Lily. Between her modest teacher's salary and the mounting bills for her younger brother Ethan, who was in his second year of college, she often felt like she was running on empty. But she loved her job, and she loved Ethan even more. He was her family, her responsibility, and she was determined to give him the future he deserved, no matter how much she had to sacrifice. As she walked along the gravel path, her thoughts drifted to the stack of unpaid bills sitting on her kitchen counter. She sighed, trying to push the worries aside. The park was her escape, a place where she could breathe, even if just for a little while. Suddenly, a sharp cry of pain broke through the stillness. Lily's head snapped up, her eyes scanning the path ahead. A man had stumbled and fallen near the jogging trail, clutching his ankle. Without hesitation, Lily quickened her pace and knelt beside him. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. The man winced, his dark brown hair slightly damp from running. He looked up at her with a sheepish smile. "I think I twisted my ankle," he said, his voice warm but strained. Lily's instincts kicked in. "Let me take a look," she said, gently examining his ankle. "I'm not a doctor, but I know a thing or two about first aid." He chuckled softly, though the pain was evident in his expression. "Lucky me," he said. "I'm Ryan, by the way, Ryan Bennett." "Billy," she replied, offering him a reassuring smile. "Let's get you off the ground. There's a cafe just down the path. You can rest there while we figure out what to do next." Ryan hesitated, glancing at his swollen ankle. "I don't want to trouble you." "You're not," Lily interrupted firmly. "Come on, lean on me." With her help, Ryan managed to stand, though he winced with every step. As they made their way to the cafe, Lily couldn't help but notice the quiet humility in his demeanor. He didn't seem like the type to ask for help, and yet there was something about him, something that made her curious. By the time they reached the small cafe, Ryan was limping heavily, but he insisted on thanking her repeatedly. "You didn't have to do this," he said as they settled into a corner table. Lily shrugged, brushing off his gratitude. "It's what people do," she said simply. "We help each other." As the waitress brought over 2 steaming cups of coffee, Lily glanced at Ryan, who was now sitting across from her, his ankle propped up on a chair. There was something about him, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. And as the morning sun streamed through the cafe windows, Lily had no idea that this chance encounter would change her life forever. The cafe was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the chilly morning outside. Lily wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, letting the heat seep into her fingers. Across the table, Ryan sat back, his ankle elevated on a spare chair, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Thank you again," he said, breaking the silence. "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come along." Lily waved him off, her tone light. "You probably would have figured it out. But I'm glad I was there. It's not every day I get to play the hero." Ryan chuckled, his laugh low and easy. "Well, you're a natural at it. Do you always rescue strangers in the park?" "Only the ones who look like they need it," she teased, taking a sip of her coffee. "So, what were you doing out there anyway? Jogging?" He nodded, his expression turning thoughtful. "Yeah, I try to run a few times a week." Lily tilted her head, studying him. There was something about the way he spoke, calm, measured, as if he was choosing his words carefully. "And what exactly are you trying to clear your head from?" she asked, half joking but curious. Ryan hesitated, his fingers tracing the rim of his coffee cup. Life, I guess, he said finally. Sometimes it gets overwhelming. Lily nodded, understanding all too well. Tell me about it, she said, her voice softening. Between work and taking care of my brother, I feel like I'm always running on empty. Ryan's gaze sharpened, his interest piqued. Your brother? Neither, she explained. He's in college. Smart kid, but college isn't cheap, and someone has to keep the lights on at home. Ryan leaned forward slightly, his expression earnest. That's a lot to take on. You must really care about him. Lily smiled, a hint of pride in her eyes. He's my family, my responsibility, and honestly, he's worth it, but it's not easy. For a moment, Ryan didn't say anything. He just watched her, as if trying to piece together the puzzle of who she was. Your teacher, right? He asked. She nodded. Elementary school. I love it, but it's exhausting. Kids have so much energy, and I'm just trying to keep up. Ryan smiled, a genuine warmth in his expression. It sounds like you're making a difference, though. That's more than most people can say. Lily shrugged, a little embarrassed by the compliment. I try. What about you? What do you do? At this, Ryan's smile faltered, just for a second. I'm between jobs right now, he said vaguely, trying to figure out my next move. Lily raised an eyebrow, sensing there was more to the story, but she didn't press. Well, I hope you figure it out, she said simply. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the hum of the cafe filling the space between them. Lily found herself relaxing, despite the strange circumstances. There was something about Ryan, something steady and grounded that made her feel at ease. As they finished their coffee, Ryan glanced at his watch and frowned. I should probably get going, he said, though he made no move to leave. Lily gestured to his ankle. You're not going anywhere on that foot, she said firmly. Let me call you a cab. Ryan hesitated, then nodded. All right, but only if you let me pay for the coffee. Lily laughed. Deal. Over the next few days, Lily found herself thinking about Ryan more than she expected. There was something about him that lingered in her mind, the way he listened so intently, the way he seemed both open and guarded at the same time. She didn't expect to see him again, but a week later, as she walked through the park on her usual route, there he was. Willie, he called out, waving from a bench. His ankle was still wrapped, but he looked more mobile than before. Ryan, she said, surprised but pleased. How's the ankle? Better, thanks to you, he said, standing up carefully. I was hoping I'd run into you again. Lily raised an eyebrow, amused. Oh? Why's that? Ryan smiled, a little sheepish. I owe you another coffee, and maybe some company, if you're not too busy? Lily hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, but this time I'm picking the place. Their second meeting turned into a third, and then a fourth. Over the next few weeks, Ryan and Lily fell into an easy rhythm, meeting in the park or at small cafes around town. They talked about everything, her students, his love of running, her dreams of traveling someday, his vague mentions of figuring things out. But no matter how much time they spent together, Ryan remained something of a mystery. He never talked about his family or his past, and whenever Lily asked about his work, he would deflect with a joke or a change of subject. It wasn't that she didn't trust him. There was something undeniably genuine about him, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he was holding something back. One evening, as they walked through the park, Lily decided to confront him. Ryan, she said, stopping in her tracks. He turned to her, his expression curious. Yeah? She hesitated, then took a deep breath. Why do I feel like you're hiding something? Ryan's smile faded, and for a moment he looked almost sad. It's not that I'm hiding anything, he said carefully. It's just complicated. Lily crossed her arms, her gaze steady. I can handle complicated. Ryan looked at her for a long moment, as if weighing his options. Finally, he sighed. All right, he said. There's something I need to tell you, but not here. Can we meet tomorrow? Lily nodded, her heart pounding. Okay, tomorrow. As she watched him walk away, 1,000 questions swirled in her mind. Who was Ryan Bennett really? And what was he so afraid to tell her? The next day, Lily arrived at the cafe earlier than usual. Her mind was racing with questions, and she couldn't shake the nervous energy that had been building since her conversation with Ryan the night before. She had replayed his words over and over in her head. There's something I need to tell you. What could it be? As the minutes ticked by, she sipped her coffee and tried to calm herself. Finally, the door opened and Ryan walked in. He looked different today, more serious, almost hesitant. He spotted her immediately and made his way to the table. "Hey," he said, his voice softer than usual. "Hey," Lily replied, trying to read his expression. "You okay?" Ryan nodded, but there was a tension in his shoulders that she hadn't seen before. He sat down across from her, his hands clasped together on the table. For a moment he didn't say anything, and Lily felt her anxiety spike. "Ryan," she said gently, "whatever it is, you can tell me." He took a deep breath, his gaze meeting hers. "Lily, I haven't been completely honest with you," he began, "about who I am." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "Okay." Ryan hesitated, then continued. "I told you I was between jobs, but that's not exactly true. The truth is, I'm not just some guy trying to figure things out. I'm the CEO of a company, or at least, I was." Lily blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "Wait, what?" Ryan leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "My family owns a large corporation. It's been in our family for generations, and I was supposed to take over. And I did, for a while, but it wasn't what I wanted, the pressure, the expectations. It was suffocating. So, a few months ago, I stepped down. I left everything behind to try and figure out who I am, outside of all that." Lily stared at him, her mind racing. "So, you're rich?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Ryan winced. "I guess you could say that, but that's not who I am, Lily. That's not the life I want to live." Lily leaned back in her chair, trying to process what he was saying. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" "Because I didn't want it to change the way you see me," Ryan said, his voice earnest. "I've met so many people who only care about the money, the status. But you're different. You're real. And I didn't want to lose that." Lily was silent for a moment, her emotions swirling. On one hand, she understood why he had kept this from her. On the other hand, she couldn't help but feel a little betrayed. "I don't know what to say," she admitted finally. Ryan reached across the table, his eyes pleading. "Lily, I care about you. I didn't mean to lie. I just didn't know how to tell you. Please, tell me this doesn't change things between us." Lily hesitated, her heart torn. "I need some time to think," she said quietly. Ryan nodded, his expression pained. "Take all the time you need," he said. "I just hope you'll give me a chance to prove that I'm still the same person you've been getting to know." Over the next few days, Lily couldn't stop thinking about Ryan's confession. She replayed their conversations in her mind, trying to reconcile the man she had come to know with the image of a wealthy CEO. Her friends had mixed reactions when she told them. "You're dating a millionaire?" her co-worker Sarah exclaimed. "Lily, this is like something out of a movie." But not everyone was so enthusiastic. "Be careful," her best friend Mia warned. "Guys like that, they live in a different world. Are you sure you can trust him?" Lily didn't know what to think. She cared about Ryan, there was no denying that, but the idea of stepping into his world with all its wealth and expectations was overwhelming. A week later, Ryan called her. "Lily, I know I said I'd give you time, but there's something I want to show you. Will you meet me tomorrow?" Lily hesitated, then agreed. "Okay, where?" "You'll see," Ryan said, his tone mysterious. The next day, Ryan picked her up and drove her to a community center on the outskirts of town. As they walked inside, Lily was surprised to see a group of children gathered in a brightly lit room, working on art projects and playing games. This is one of the programs I've been supporting, Ryan explained. It's a place for kids who don't have anywhere else to go after school. I've been funding it anonymously for a while now. Lily looked around, her heart softening as she watched the kids laugh and play. "This is amazing," she said. Ryan smiled. "This is the kind of work I want to do. Not running a corporation, not chasing profits. I want to make a difference, like you do." Lily turned to him, her eyes searching his. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want you to see who I really am," Ryan said. "Not the CEO, not the guy with the money, just me." Lily felt a lump rise in her throat. For the first time, she saw the vulnerability in Ryan's eyes, the fear of being judged, the hope of being understood. "I don't care about the money," she said finally, "but I do care about honesty. If we're going to keep seeing each other, I need you to be real with me. No more secrets." Ryan nodded, his expression serious. "No more secrets," he promised. But their challenges were far from over. A few weeks later, Ryan invited Lily to a family dinner. "I want you to meet them," he said. "I want them to see the person who's been changing my life." Lily agreed, though she couldn't shake the nerves as they pulled up to the sprawling estate where Ryan's family lived. The house was massive, with perfectly manicured lawns and an air of quiet luxury that made Lily feel out of place. Inside, Ryan's family was polite but distant. His father, a stern man with sharp eyes, barely acknowledged her. His sister, Victoria, was openly skeptical. "Oh, Lily," Victoria said over dinner, her tone cool. "What do you do?" "I'm a teacher," Lily replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Victoria raised an eyebrow. "How noble." Lily felt her cheeks flush, but she refused to let Victoria's condescension get to her. "I love what I do," she said simply. Ryan, sensing the tension, reached for Lily's hand under the table. "Lily's incredible," he said firmly. "She's one of the most selfless people I've ever met." His father frowned. "Ryan, we need to talk about your future. This phase of yours has gone on long enough. It's time to come back to the company." Ryan's jaw tightened. "I'm not coming back," he said. "I've made my decision." The room fell silent, the weight of Ryan's words hanging in the air. The tension in the dining room was palpable. Ryan's father, Charles Bennett, set his fork down with a deliberate clink, his sharp gaze fixed on his son. "Ryan," he said, his voice low but firm, "this isn't just about you. The company is your legacy. It's your responsibility. You can't just walk away because you're confused." Ryan's grip on Lily's hand tightened under the table. "I'm not confused," he said, his tone steady but laced with frustration. "I've spent my whole life doing what was expected of me, but I've realized that's not the life I want. I want to do something meaningful, something that actually helps people." Charles's expression hardened. "And you think running away to fund after-school programs is meaningful? That's a hobby, Ryan, not a career." Lily felt her stomach twist. She could see the strain in Ryan's face, the way his jaw clenched as he tried to keep his composure. She wanted to speak up, to defend him, but she wasn't sure if it was her place. Victoria, Ryan's sister, leaned back in her chair, a smirk playing on her lips. "So, let me get this straight," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're giving up everything, the company, the family legacy, for what? A teacher and a few kids with crayons?" Lily's cheeks burned, but before she could respond, Ryan cut in. "Don't," he said sharply, his eyes flashing with anger. "Don't talk about Lily like that." Victoria raised an eyebrow, clearly enjoying the drama. "I'm just saying, Ryan, you're throwing away a life most people would kill for, and for what? Some idealistic fantasy?" Ryan pushed his chair back abruptly, the legs scraping against the floor. "You don't get it," he said, his voice rising. "None of you do. You're so obsessed with money and power that you can't see what really matters." Charles stood as well, his face dark with anger. What matters, Ryan, is that you honor the sacrifices this family has made for you. You think you're above all this, that you're too good for the life we've built? Ryan shook his head, his voice breaking slightly. No, Dad. I just want to live a life that's mine. Not yours, not Victoria's, mine. The room fell silent, the weight of Ryan's words hanging in the air. Lily's heart ached for him, but she also felt a surge of pride. He was standing up for himself, for what he believed in, even in the face of his family's disapproval. Finally, Charles sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. "If that's how you feel," he said, his voice quieter now, "then I won't stop you, but don't expect me to support this rebellion of yours." Ryan nodded, his expression resolute. "I'm not asking for your support, I'm just asking you to respect my decision." Charles didn't respond, and after a moment, Ryan turned to Lily. "Let's go," he said softly. Lily stood, her legs feeling shaky as she followed Ryan out of the dining room. She could feel Victoria's eyes on her, could hear the faint murmur of disapproval from the other guests, but she kept her head high. Outside, the cool night air hit her like a wave, and she took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Ryan was already walking toward the car, his hands shoved into his pockets. "Ryan," she called after him, her voice gentle. He stopped, turning to face her. His expression was a mix of anger, hurt, and exhaustion. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I shouldn't have brought you into that." Lily shook her head, stepping closer to him. "You don't have to apologize," she said. "I'm glad I was there. I'm glad I got to see what you're up against." Ryan looked at her, his eyes searching hers. "It's not fair to you," he said. "You shouldn't have to deal with my family, with all their judgment and expectations. You deserve better than that." Lily reached out, taking his hand in hers. "Ryan, I don't care about your family's money or their expectations. I care about you, and if this is the life you want, the life you're fighting for, then I'm with you, no matter what." For a moment, Ryan just stared at her, as if trying to process her words. Then, slowly, a small, grateful smile spread across his face. "You have no idea how much that means to me," he said. Lily smiled back, squeezing his hand. "You don't have to do this alone, Ryan. I'm here, and I believe in you." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Ryan threw himself into his work at the community center, expanding the programs and reaching out to other organizations for support. Lily helped where she could, volunteering her time and using her connections as a teacher to bring in more kids. But the tension with Ryan's family lingered. Charles refused to speak to him, and Victoria continued to spread rumors about Lily, painting her as a gold digger who was taking advantage of Ryan's rebellion. One evening, as they sat together in the park, Ryan turned to Lily, his expression serious. "I've been thinking," he said. "About what?" she asked, leaning against his shoulder. "About the future," he said. "About us." Lily's heart skipped a beat. "What about us?" Ryan hesitated, then took her hand. "I know things have been hard lately, and I know my family hasn't made it easy, but I want you to know that I'm all in. I want to build a life with you, Lily. A real life, one that's ours." Lily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "I mean it," he said, his voice steady. "You've shown me what really matters, and I don't care what anyone else thinks. As long as I have you, I know I'm on the right path." Lily smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "I'm all in too," she said softly. As they sat together under the fading light of the evening sky, Lily realized that, for the first time in a long time, she felt truly at peace. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the park as Lily and Ryan walked hand in hand. The air was crisp, and the faint sound of children laughing echoed from a nearby playground. It was a peaceful moment, one that felt like a quiet victory after everything they had been through. Over the past few months, Ryan had worked tirelessly to expand the community programs he cared so deeply about. The once small after-school center had grown into a thriving hub for kids and families, offering everything from tutoring to art classes to sports programs. Lily had been by his side every step of the way, volunteering her time and even rallying her fellow teachers to get involved. But it wasn't just the community center that had changed. Ryan had changed too. He was no longer the guarded, mysterious man Lily had met in the park that day. He was open, honest, and unafraid to show his passion for the work he was doing. And while his relationship with his family was still strained, he had found a sense of purpose that gave him the strength to stand his ground. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Ryan asked, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Lily smiled, glancing up at him. "All the time," she said. "It's kind of crazy, isn't it? How one random morning in the park turned into this." Ryan chuckled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "I guess fate has a funny way of working things out." They stopped near a bench overlooking the lake, the water shimmering in the fading light. Ryan turned to face her, his expression soft but serious. "Lily," he began, taking both of her hands in his. Her heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" Ryan hesitated for a moment, as if searching for the right words. Then he smiled, a mix of nervousness and determination in his eyes. "I just want you to know how much you mean to me. You've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've shown me what it means to care about something real, to fight." Lily felt her cheeks flush, her chest tightening with emotion. "Ryan." He took a deep breath, his grip on her hands tightening slightly. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want you in it. I want us to keep building this life together, no matter what challenges come our way." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled through them. "I want that too," she said softly. Ryan grinned, his relief evident. "Good," he said, pulling her into a warm embrace. For a moment they just stood there, holding each other as the world around them seemed to fade away. It wasn't a grand, dramatic moment. It was quiet, simple, and perfect. In the weeks that followed, Ryan's work at the community center continued to flourish. His father, Charles, eventually reached out, not with an apology, but with a tentative offer of support. "I still don't agree with your choices," he had said gruffly, "but I can see you're serious about this, and I respect that." It wasn't the reconciliation Ryan had hoped for, but it was a start, and for now that was enough. Victoria, on the other hand, remained distant, but Lily didn't let it bother her. She had learned to focus on the people who truly mattered, the kids at the center, her students, and, most importantly, Ryan. One Saturday afternoon, the community center hosted its biggest event yet, a fundraiser to support new programs for underprivileged kids. The turnout was incredible, with families, teachers, and local businesses all coming together to show their support. Lily stood near the entrance, greeting guests as they arrived. She wore a simple but elegant dress, her hair pulled back in a loose bun. Ryan appeared beside her, looking dashing in a tailored suit, though he had ditched the tie in favor of a more relaxed look. "You ready for this?" he asked, slipping an arm around her waist. Lily smiled up at him. "I think so. You?" Ryan grinned. "With you by my side, always." The event was a huge success, raising more money than they had ever expected. As the evening wound down, Ryan took the stage to thank everyone for their support. "I want to take a moment to acknowledge someone very special," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Lily Harper, you've been my rock through all of this. Your kindness, your strength, and your belief in me have made everything we've accomplished possible. I couldn't have done this without you." The crowd erupted into applause, and Lily felt her cheeks flush as Ryan stepped down from the stage and pulled her into a hug. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I wanted to," he said simply. "You deserve it." As the night came to an end, Lily and Ryan found themselves back in the park, where it had all begun. The stars were bright overhead, and the air was cool and crisp. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't been in the park that day? Lily asked, her voice soft. Ryan smiled, his hand brushing against hers. I don't like to think about that, he said, because it reminds me how close I came to missing out on the best thing that's ever happened to me. Lily laughed, leaning her head against his shoulder. You're such a sap. Only for you, he teased, pressing a kiss to her forehead. As they walked hand in hand, Lily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. Life wasn't perfect, and there would always be challenges, but for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. And as the stars twinkled above them, she knew that this was just the beginning of their story. Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt journey. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more inspiring tales about love, kindness, and life's unexpected twists, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Emma's Stories for more. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories to life, so hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for the next chapter of Emma's Stories. See you in the next video.